So, let's talk about Tifa's breasts. I know this isn't generally my style, but for the sake of this issue, I'm going to completely tone down the comedy. If you expect me to rant and rave like an absolute lunatic, as I'd usually do, then this may not be the video for you. Anyway, the remake of Final Fantasy VII has been a hot topic for what feels like the longest time now. And for good reason. This game was the gateway for Western civilization into the world of Final Fantasy, and role-playing games in general. I remember spending countless hours immersing myself into the story, learning different strategies for the bosses, getting to know all the different characters, for better or worse, and marvelling at the full motion video sequences that were revolutionary for the time. I got absolute chills the first time that music kicked up and I saw Cloud roaring down Shinra HQ's stairs on what would become his iconic motorbike. And of course, the FMVs also showed the characters in greater detail than their polygonal sprites ever could, including the fact that Tifa Lockhart is a shy lady with enormous breasts and a skirt that's at risk of being mistaken for a belt. Tifa's image is actually an integral part of one of FF7's underlying themes, namely that of subverting expectations. Tifa's a big busty brawler who is basically the mother figure to Avalanche, cheering others up when they're down, and she's very shy and reserved when it comes to pursuits of love. Aerith, on the other hand, a reserved-looking flower girl, is actually far flirtier and more straightforward with these things. And she has an inability to read the room that makes me want to hit her over the head with her own staff, and that's just what the smeg is wrong with her. Red 13, a literal beast, mind you, has real, relatable doubts that Cloud is mind, and an intelligence that surpasses that of most, if not all, humans. Barrett's the big, tough black guy with a gun for an arm. Ooh, that's gotta be intimidating, right? Well, he does what he does because if he doesn't, then the planet's going to die. He wrestles this fact with his love and duty towards his adopted daughter Marlene, even seeming a bit tight with his money when it comes to paying Cloud for his missions. But of course Barrett gets angry when Cloud wants 3,000 gil. That money's for Marlene's education! This isn't even getting into the cheerful and sneaky girl Yuffie who truly just wants to bring her hometown to its former glory after Shinra did to it what it's basically done to the whole planet at this point. And even Sephiroth, the game's big bad, isn't just evil for the sake of evil. He finds out that he was a scientific experiment, and he was basically indoctrinated into believing that Jenova is truly his mother. And thinking about it, he may have been the first villain I experienced who had a tragic backstory, and wasn't just evil because evil. Now, getting back to the topic at hand, Square Enix recently revealed Tifa's look in the upcoming remake, and just as predicted, the internet has gone into a frenzy over her, be it her breast size or her clothes. I think it'll be easier to just tackle these things one by one. Firstly, the clothes. As revolutionary as the FMVs were for the time, there's still only so much detail the PS1 could handle. Personally, I don't think alterations to Tifa's outfit are much of an issue. But then again, I'm used to games like Dead or Alive where you can unlock a ridiculous amount of alternate costumes, and when I play The Sims I always give several different outfits to my characters. The skirt's a bit longer, she wears modesty shorts, though she may have done so from the beginning. Tifa doesn't get any upskirt shots in the original game. There's an implied one if you take the fire escape up the Shinra HQ building, but still. And she even has stockings that go above the knee. Now, this is applying to popular fetishes in today's world, Zetai Ryoki for example, so this design still fits with Tifa looking and dressing in sexually attractive ways, but still being shy and supportive at heart, fitting in with Final Fantasy VII's aim to subvert expectations. Also, Tifa has an undershirt for her iconic vest top now. Remember this bit, it'll come into play later. Tifa's tits are too big! No they're not, shut up. Tifa's tits are comically huge and unrealistic! No they're not, shut up. Honestly, can we please just stop describing huge-breasted women as unrealistic? As a kid, I already had to face the fact that my life will never be the way it could be in comics, games, and other forms of fantasy, and this ridiculous logic would mean that I have unrealistic friends. So, am I in a comic or not? Now, folks, there is no way that I'm going to claim to be an expert on women, but there is a secret that I know about women with very big breasts. Whether they're slim, fat, tall, short, or all the heights and weights in between and beyond, these huge-breasted women all have this one thing in common. They exist. It just really grinds my gears every time someone looks at a character like this and says that her breasts are unrealistic. I mean, they were saying it about Lara Croft, whose bust was never at Tifa's level. Now, every time someone pulls this crap, I just imagine some poor woman with very large breasts reading the comment and thinking, guess I'll die. I mean, just because you don't believe it's realistic doesn't mean that that's true. Just because you're offended doesn't mean that you're right. You want to talk realism in a Final Fantasy game? Really? Fantasy's right there in the title. And Final Fantasy VII has Cloud and Sephiroth wielding swords that are longer than they are, broader as well in Cloud's case. And Barret and Dyne have guns for arms with apparently unlimited ammunition. Aerith can talk to the planet. Red 13 is a talking firewolf. Vincent can transform into 4 different creatures. Ketchi, yes, that is the original pronunciation apparently, is an animatronic cat that can perform magic to bring giant stuffed Moogles to life. And Yuffie's a 16-year-old girl with barely any muscle mass who can punch the ground so hard that it causes ripples in the planet's surface. Honestly, Tifa's breasts, huge as they are, look like 2 of the most realistic parts of the game. Tifa's tits are too small! No they're not, shut up! Contradictory? Yes. Confusing? Also yes. Hypocritical? Hear me out. Let's look at Tifa in Final Fantasy VII. She has huge breasts. They bounce around as huge breasts do. She was prescribed orthopedic underwear when she was 15 at the oldest. She trains in martial arts, which is a great way to improve one's movement and core strength. And she must have done at least some muscle training. I mean, look at the size of the planet's weapon creations. And she can suplex those things. However, strength training and orthopedic underwear can only go so far. How many people have heard of macromastia, or virginal breast hypertrophy? These conditions cause a woman's breasts to just grow and grow. If left untreated, macromastia can progress to gigantomastia. Still hearing me out? Good. Let's look at Tifa in Final Fantasy VII's sequel film, Advent Children. Compared to how she looks in the game's FMVs, her bust size is significantly reduced. Remember what I said about strength training and orthopedics only going so far? It's not beyond the realms of reality for Tifa to have one day after the end of the game thought, wow, we saved the whole planet from the small planet summoned here by the Black Materia's meteor spell. Or maybe it was an actual meteor and the small planet bit was a mistranslation. Holly and the livestream spared us. It's time for a new lease on life. And my first step is finally getting that breast reduction. When you're scared that you might not even make a difference, or that if you do, then the planet might deem humans as expendable anyway, and then it turns out that you are worthy of life, you don't want to let debilitating back pain get in the way. I mean, yeah, Tifa can do backflips, suplex kaiju, and punch with the force of a nuclear explosion, but for how long? If you want Tifa to be realistic, then yeah, I say keep her boobs huge in the original story, because this decision to have a reduction is a very realistic progression for a woman in Tifa's position. And also in the remake, looking back at the clothes, people have made good points about how she could be wearing a sports bra for her moves, so yeah, sports bras do compress the breasts and, like, remove a lot of the movement, so that would be a good theory as well. There's more than enough huge-breasted women in media! No, there's not, shut up! Well, yeah, there's a lot of characters with large breasts, but I'd argue that there are also a lot of characters without. And that's not just because of the guys. And yeah, there's a lot of sexual themes with women like this. I'm looking at you, Peach Beach Splash. Not that I'm complaining, we all need a little titillation from time to time. Even people like me who are mostly asexual. But what about big-breasted women just being women who just so happen to have big breasts? Why is it so easy for people to forget that these women exist? Tifa has huge breasts. This is the theme of the video. She has huge breasts. But she's not some blow-up doll or any other form of masturbatory product. She's a martial artist, a childhood friend, a beacon of hope for a terrorist organization, a woman with romantic feelings who has trouble expressing them. Notice I said romantic, not sexual. If you play your cards right, there is a scene where it's implied that Cloud and Tifa make love, but to be fair, they are crossing into what they deem likely to be their last day alive. But above all else, Tifa's a human being, or at least a digital approximation of a human being, who just so happens to have huge breasts until her reduction between the events of FF7 and Advent Children. I know the breast reduction surgery hasn't been canonically stated, but it just makes sense to me. So, what is the problem here? Okay, anybody who knows me can pretty much predict that I'm going to state that the problem here isn't the size of Tifa's breasts, no matter how Square Enix officially handles the decision when the game's released. It's that people are a bunch of bastards. If you think I'm actually going to just state the problem as people being a bunch of bastards, then you're absolutely right! People saying that Tifa's breasts need to be smaller in order to be more realistic are part of the problem. People saying that Tifa's breasts need to be bigger for the sake of big breasts are part of the problem. People accusing the big breasters of just wanting masturbatory material are part of the problem. People who actually do want Tifa's breasts to be larger for the purposes of masturbatory material are part of the problem. People accusing the big breasters of crying and whining just because they have a complaint are part of the problem. People accusing the small breasters of crying and whining just because they have a complaint are part of the problem. People who attack the character of other people instead of challenging the argument itself are part of the problem. People who see any complaint at all and just moan about it being SJW bollocks without looking into the argument properly and understanding why they feel a certain way are part of the problem. People who claim to want women to look more realistic and then complain about the inclusion of average size or fat women are part of the problem. Tifa's mammary glands, be they the size in the original game or the size in the recently released remake trailer, are not. I have been doxed on Too Bad. If you're a brony, bro hoof. If you're not, bro fist. And here's something I can say about all women. The big-breasted, the small-breasted, the factual and the fictional. The size of her breasts is none of our business. By the way, the irony of making a video complaining about complainers and saying people who complain about complainers are part of the problem isn't lost on me, so don't bother pointing that out.